is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 96 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is Jasmine Lawrence. But first, I want to make sure that we say thank you to our episode partner, Skillamay. Now, are you currently in a job that you don't love? You keep applying to other jobs with no callbacks. You have this idea of what your dream job would be, but you have no idea how to get there. Then I really suggest that you reach out to Skillamay. Their founder, Marina V, has helped hundreds of people discover their skills, develop their career stories, and find the job of their dreams. So Skillamay is currently offering a $125 package that is special just for dream drivers. So with that, you'll have someone review your current resume and give you an assessment on that. Will help you create a brand new one that really highlights your skill sets and the job that you're looking for, and will really help your resume stand out when the hiring manager is looking at it. And you'll also get, check this, you'll get a 1-hour call with the career coach during which you'll learn the ins and outs of the best way to find a job that you will actually love. So if you're interested and you want to learn more, visit skillamay.com/dreamsanddrive. That's skillume.com/dreamsanddrive. And you'll also have a link to that in the episode description and the show notes. So let's get into what this episode is all about. Are you multi-passionate? Are you somebody who has multiple interests? Maybe you like bike riding, but at the same time, you really like corporate finance. Maybe you like crocheting, but at the same time, you're really interested in biomedical engineering. Sometimes you don't always have to choose. Sometimes it's not always about an either or situation. And in this episode, Jasmine Lawrence hones in on the power of not limiting yourself when it comes to what you're passionate about and what your potential is. At the age of 13, after attending an entrepreneurship biz camp, Jasmine Lawrence founded Eden Body Works to meet her own need for affordable natural hair and body care products. And after 12 years in business, her products are now available at Target, Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Amazon, and more. But beauty isn't Jasmine's only passion. As a kid, she had a huge love for science and technology. She went on to graduate from Georgia Institute of Technology with a bachelor's degree in computer science and concentrations in devices and artificial intelligence, and now she serves as a program manager on the HoloLens Experience team at Microsoft. So is it really possible to run a thriving beauty empire and manage a full-time tech career? To Jasmine, it is. In this episode, Jasmine talks about how she was able to do that, the importance of finding your core values and brand mission, what growth looked like in the early days of her business, how Oprah's golden touch sent her company into 3 months of back orders, why Jasmine decided to go to college and study tech in the first place, how she ended up at Microsoft, and the skills that Jasmine has learned while working at Microsoft that are also transferable to other areas of her life. We talk about so much in this episode. You guys will definitely love it. As always, make sure to follow us on social at Dreams and Drive and use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. I love seeing what you guys are saying. I love engaging. Make sure to also hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, iHeart. Hit the subscribe button if you want to get updated every time we have a new episode. I can't wait to hear what you guys think of this one. Enjoy. Hi, Jasmine. Welcome to this episode of Dreams and Drive. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Hi, Raina. Great to meet you.
I know. I feel like, when you've seen somebody online and you read so much stuff about them and you feel like you've connected with them in other ways. That's how I feel now going to this interview, but I'm going to pretend like we haven't met, but you know what I mean, right? It's like one of those weird things when you read so much and you have admired someone from afar. I'm happy that we're able to make this happen because I am a proud user of Eden's Body Works, and it's funny, I'm trying to think of the line that I really love. The coconut shea line, that is my line, girl. I love this.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is the leave-in conditioner I have. Wash day was yesterday and I used it in my hair. So this is, I do use the products.
Oh.
I love to start our interviews though, kind of just going back in time. So, I know that you started Eden Body Works when you were younger, but let's go back before then. What inspired you as like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old? Who was Jasmine the child?
Wow. Gosh, 6-year-old me. That's like asking me to go back almost a decade. I think it was really fun. I love to laugh. I love to read, and I was very into just science, and I watched a lot of PBS growing up. So just programs that made education and learning seem really fun. And I don't know, I always want to just do something cool and change the world using science or technology. Even as a little kid, I was always drawing or building things and, just creating. So.
And you grew up in Jersey, right?
So my parents were actually in the military. So I moved quite a few times as a kid. I ended up living all across the East Coast and South and the West Coast. I even lived in Hawaii for a little bit. But yeah, I went to elementary school and a bit of middle school in New York, and then moved over to New Jersey for middle school and high school.
What part of Jersey? Because I'm from Jersey, so I love connecting with other people who've lived in Jersey, who know a little bit about that Jersey life.
Yeah, well, I'm from South Jersey, so I don't know what part of Jersey you're from.
I'm from North Jersey. I don't like you, Jasmine. Sorry, interview's
that's like
over.
A whole different state.
Interview's over. So let's go to, 11-year-old Jasmine. Tell me what happened when, you decided that you were trying to figure out what happened with your whole hair and what caused you to get interested in making your own beauty products. Tell us that story.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I was very much influenced by, I'll just say, media, right? And there was definitely an image of beauty in my mind that I felt like it was necessary for me to attain. When I was younger, I did a little bit of child modeling and, some state pageants and things like that. Ended up actually being Little Miss Hawaii in 1994.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, my image and the way that I looked externally was, pretty up there on my list of things that added my value to this world. And so, growing up, I would get my hair braided, I would get relaxers, and, that's kind of how I was growing up. That's how, so I went to a place for someone to do my hair, or one of my aunts or one of my cousins did my hair or put in a relaxer or whatever it was. And one of those times in the routine, I just had a really bad reaction, and a lot of my hair just started to fall out. And it was just really dramatic and just frustrating for me, because I basically lost the core of my identity. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to be that creative learner, exciting, fun Jasmine. I just wanted to figure out, how can I be beautiful again? Right. Because if you're not beautiful, how are people going to trust or respect you or listen to you? Or how are you going to make any progress in this world if, your looks really aren't, put together? And so, after I lost my hair, I started focusing on, okay, how do I fix this? Right. I'm a problem solver, and, going to the stores and going to doctors, trying to figure out, what can I do to heal my body? And, that was a real big change for me, right? That it stopped being about, how I look and the external aesthetics of how I look, and really about, how do I become healthy again? How do I create a lifestyle that will allow my hair to grow back? And in that season, I just started researching different ingredients and different herbs and oils and spices that would help heal my scalp. And, what I was making wasn't a product until the year I started the company. And it was because I went to a business camp one summer, and, the camp was just all about, how do you start a small business? How do you find a need in this world and fill it with some type of product? And even throughout the entire camp, I never brought up the idea of the oils that I had been mixing together in my kitchen. It wasn't until I got home that summer that I realized I could have a huge impact on the lives of women around the world if I shared with them what I was learning about, my hair and healthy living and, life beyond what you look like.
So you were, okay, so the hair incident happened when you were 11, right? And what age did you go to the camp?
I was Yeah, I was 13.
So what do you think? Because I'm trying to think back to, when I was 11-year-old, 13-year-old. I don't think I would have been so mature and sophisticated in seeing a problem and trying to research it and figure it out, right? What do you think contributed to your inquisitiveness and just wanting to really figure out what you could do with this idea that was developing over time?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think it was just what I've learned in school, right? I guess at least the way that I was taught in school, everything was phrased around, there was this problem in this world, or this inventor had an alternative view of what the world could be. And so, they invented this theory, or they invented this product, or, I was just surrounded in my mind, or, in my education, with people who had taken life into their own hands. And that was inspiring for me, right? I mean, in the end, ultimately, I had no other option, right? Because not looking good, or like not getting my beauty back, was not an option.
That's so funny. And 13 is the year when, you start noticing guys, you start, hormones are kicking in. So it's like, you got to have something about you that looks cute, because everything else is going wonky, right? Yeah,
right. Exactly. I mean, even at 11, it was just like, what else am I doing? Right. It's not going to get in my way of watching my cartoons or reading my books, right? Like, I feel like it was a very opportunistic time for me. I had this free time. I had access to the library. I had the full support of my family to do whatever it takes. And, I think they just, I don't want to say they pitied me, but they encouraged me, and they were like, if this is what you need to do to get over this experience, then do it. And we're with you. Nobody wants to buy a $40 bottle of shampoo, right? Nobody, including me. So
definitely. And I feel like that encouragement is something that is so crucial to us at a young age. Because I remember when I was younger, I had this desire to start a bookmark business, right? And my parents, it's kind of like, why did they think that it was necessary to take me to Staples every week to laminate my business cards? But they did. And just imagine if our parents hadn't been so supportive, or hadn't kind of just nurtured us, it could have changed our whole trajectory, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to, okay, so you're 13, you start to realize that you could develop a business around this. What were the first things that you had to do in order to get the business started?
Really, for me, the core things were, what value am I adding to this world, right? What are my promises for the people that I'm going, to serve with what I'm going to do? And that really just enabled me to stay focused to the development of the rest of the business, right? Some of the core principles were, okay, it needs to be affordable, right? That's probably the number one blocker of me, using anything that's already out there, is I can't afford it, right? Mm-hmm. And then, then there was the frustration part of it. Okay, the number 2 core value is this stuff actually has to work. There's no point of me just mixing stuff together, putting a bunch of fancy words on a label, knowing that, it's not going to do anything, right? So these solutions have to be tested and tried and proven, right? And, I think those were the two big things. And then the last one was really personal. It was about using natural ingredients and understanding what was going in those products, because I felt like essentially that ignorance is what led me to have my own traumatic experience in the beginning, because I had no idea what was being put on my scalp, or what it was doing to my body, or the potential long-term effects. And so using natural ingredients and educating and empowering people to take control of their bodies and take control of their lifestyles, that was the third pillar of, okay, these are the things that I'm going to attempt to do as I grow this into a business, and instead of just thinking about it from the perspective of, okay, I'm going to develop a product that I'm then going to sell.
How did you figure out the other side of the business? Let's say the paperwork side, getting the business formed, making it an LLC or whatever you were forming, or, getting the right suppliers, the right bottling, packaging, who helped you with that stuff?
So, I learned a little bit about about that stuff when I was at that business camp, right? The first week was all running through what are the basics of a business plan. And if you understand the product that you're trying to sell, that stuff, I don't want to say it comes naturally, but it's your vision, it's your mission. And really there is no right way, but you have to make choices about, how are you going to solve those problems? So for me, when it came to package design, right, these were things that I did. I wanted packaging that looked clean and pure and formal, but welcoming, something that, highlighted the key ingredient, right? So that it would be familiar to you. I wanted a whole family of products that work together. And these were things that, I just sketched up and I designed them in PowerPoint. And, like you were saying, my mom took me to Staples. I bought some labels and I bought some and I put them on there and I tried. And, when I started going out to different door-to-door places, I would take that feedback seriously, like, oh, this is too small, or that looks weird, or, all this stuff. And so, developing all of that. But then I would say probably 6 months after the business camp there was a follow-up incubator. And so I spent the next year in an incubator where I got pro bono legal, financial, marketing advice from experts on Wall Street. And those people became, lifelong mentors to me, as much as they could, obviously, without experts in my industry, just encouraging me and, give resources to just help build it up. But really, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, these ideas come from you, right? Or you hire people with the skills to bring, what you need.
Were you manufacturing everything yourself in the beginning?
Yep. In the beginning, everything was made in my kitchen and then my basement. And, it wasn't until we signed our first major retailer, Walmart, that we really started pursuing, going to a manufacturing facility.
And when you say we, do you mean who was part of your team in the early days?
I mean, in the beginning, it was my mom and my sisters and my dad, right? So it was just my family. But I mean, it's hard for me to say I did this and I did that because of all the people that were involved in making it happen, and all the, all the random emails that were like, hey, you should check out this place, right? Or, hey, you should talk to so-and-so. And so, yes, definitely I see myself as, a person that brings vision to Eden Body Works and a strong leader in the organization, but it's not just things that I'm doing. So
no, I definitely agree with you on that. And it is so important to acknowledge those that helped you along the way, along the journey, because none of us got here by ourselves. And some people like to recreate the story as a singular story when it isn't. But let's go to your first sale. If you can remember, what was it like, selling Eden Body Works? And was it called this at the time when you first launched? Did you always have the name Eden Body Works?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take us to that first sale and what it felt like for you as an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur.
Wow. I mean, I guess in my head, my definition of success wasn't about money. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about getting approval anymore of what people thought. My pitch about it was, again, iterating those three pillars of, these things work. They use natural ingredients and they're affordable. Just try it, right? Take a chance on this, right? Exploring and, sharing educational material with people at, let's say, I think I was probably at a booth, right? This is what I'm picturing. I was at a booth at the end of this incubator, probably at the expo. And, I was really concerned with, how am I presenting myself, right? I wanted to seem mature, like a real businesswoman. I wanted the products to be displayed nice and clean, that so people could read the labels and understand, what ingredients were in there. And I think, maybe don't remember what I was selling it for, right? But, when I got that first $5 cash, it just felt like, awesome. Like, let's keep going. Like, this is just the beginning, it kind of felt as special as a kindergarten graduation, right? Like for you as a kindergartner, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm moving on to the next phase of life. But it probably was more significant externally because, it showed to my parents and to my siblings that this could be a real thing. People would be willing to pay for something like this. And after all the work that I put into it, and after all the conversations to get to that incubator, I felt like I had done as much as I could to prevent the business from failing. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel confident, but I also didn't feel overly ecstatic about one sale, because for me, it was about, like I said, that long-term vision of how do I impact the lives of women all up. And I would say that that's probably not something that hit me until several years later, where, we have this foundation and this trust in the natural hair community. And we have this relationship with, thousands of women. And now, because they believe in us, we can start having those real conversations about life and not just about hair.
So let's kind of travel to this moment. But, in order to get to that point where, years later, you're able to sit back and reflect on everything, what did growth look like during those let's say the first 5-6 years of Eden Body Works? Like, what were the core things that you and the team had to put in place in order to build the company, build your audience, build your customer base?
Yeah. So, in the beginning, it was actually me, going door to door to different neighbors, salons, traveling to different natural hair conferences and things like that, just trying to get exposure. Exposure was so huge. And, this was the early 2000s. So it was before, I would say, the boom of major social media. So it's not like I could, tweet or post something on Instagram, with the right hashtags and be discovered. I had to physically go to the places that people were traditionally going to learn about hair and skin. And, I would go to career days at different colleges and talk about entrepreneurship. The group that I was in, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, had a few, expos that they would host, and other organizations had events like that as well. And so for the first couple of years, it was really about getting the name out there, finding the right distribution channels, which was really difficult. And, the first year or two was super slow, probably made less than $1,000 in the first year. But again, it wasn't about how much money we were making. It was about learning, how do we grow and how do we improve? Mm-hmm. And so 2 years later, in 2006, finally, saving up all that money, was able to launch a website.
Oh, so you didn't have a website yet?
No.
Oh, wow.
I know that nowadays the first thing that entrepreneurs do is they choose their business name based on the website.
Yes.
Crap. But yeah, for the first 2 years, I didn't have a website, because what I learned is that those face-to-face relationships are fundamental. Physically being there, learning from people, and not relying on the web, was important to me. And it was really, honestly, I couldn't afford a website at that time, right? I
can only imagine how much websites cost to make and maintain back then.
Yeah. And you know what? In the beginning, it was just like a template e-shop, like back when things were prefixed with E instead of I. Yeah. It was just a web commerce platform. Right. And that's something that I had to search for, or was recommended to me by someone at one of these conventions. Right. The big thing was when people would leave my booth or, would get out of a conversation with me, they would know how to contact me, but there was no general information available about the organization, right? About Eden Body Works itself. And so someone could get really excited about, oh, I know this 13-year-old and she started this company and her products are actually really good. There's no way for them to get a hold of me or a hold of the product unless they emailed me directly, right? And, maybe through PayPal or something like that, or they physically mailed me a check in the mail, to the product. So launching the website in, I want to say 2006, was a huge turn, because later that year, getting featured on the Oprah show, that's where all the traffic went. I can't imagine being on Oprah without having that website, because that's really where people were able to find Eden Body Works, order us 3 months into being back ordered, and, share a link with their friends and spread the word.
Wow. Oprah sent you guys into 3 months of back orders?
Yeah.
Wow.
For that one day, the one day that the show was on air, were so many thousands of orders that, just to get out those orders from that one day, it took us 3 months.
Wow. Okay. So you can't talk about Oprah and I don't ask you this question. What was it like being interviewed by Miss Winfrey herself?
It was incredible. Right. And I feel like this is the way with all great experiences in life. As you're experiencing them, you feel like you're in a daze, right? You feel like nothing is real and everything is sparkly and just like everything was happening so fast. And I mean, I definitely appreciated and valued those moments that we spent together. And, it took all of my courage to be able to speak confidently and maturely. I was 15 when I was on that show. So over a decade ago, and in my mind, I wasn't thinking about, how many people were going to order, how much money we're going to make. I'm thinking about, okay, this is my chance. I have to represent the brand well. All of the work that has gone into it. This is our moment to shine. And, I didn't know. And it was so relieving to know that she had a very similar experience to me growing up. Right. And so I saw her as someone who got me, someone who understood. And, it wasn't until I got home, that I realized her real reach, right? Like, I think people call it Oprah's golden touch or whatever it might be, but her reach, her exposure, her platform is so beyond anything that I imagined, when I got the phone call to be on the show. And that really, I really do attribute, some of our initial success to that level of exposure that we got and that level of, sign off and encouragement from someone like that, recognizing me as a person and, giving me that, nudge to like keep doing what I'm doing.
I was going to ask you, do you think that, let's say you guys hadn't gone on Oprah during that specific moment in the business, do you think the business trajectory would have looked different?
You know what? It's hard to say. It's hard to say because even despite Oprah, we still were featured in, the BBC, the London Financial Times, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. I mean, these were before Oprah, right? So the story was already spreading, right? And it was just contagious. It was one local newspaper in my neighborhood, the Gloucester County Times, was probably the first publication to write about, we've got a teen in the community and she's doing this business thing, because literally I was everywhere, right? I was the, community farmers market and, we had a Williamstown day back in the day where I had a booth and, all that stuff where I made it known who I was, right? I told my friends I was giving samples out to my teachers, right? Like I was so on fire.
You were a hustler, Jasmine.
Right? Like I guess they didn't have the terminology side hustle back then, but even in school after basketball practice, like this was a part of my life. It was the basis of who I was. And so, I mean, I'm not saying we wouldn't have been successful without Oprah, but I am giving credit to that platform and that exposure really just accelerated the growth, right? Just accelerated even beyond, right? So before I went on Oprah, I had a deal with Walmart, right? So I was already able to nail that by going to an entrepreneurship conference, right? So, thousands of orders were going to come in from Walmart if they didn't come in from Oprah. And it really just built their faith in me, both ways, right? Walmart was excited that we were going to be featured on Oprah, right? So our deal with them, went super smoothly. And, Oprah was excited that we got to deal with someone like Walmart, right? It was mutually beneficial. But just like I said before, I felt like I had done everything that I could do to avoid failure up to that point. And, when that moment came, I was prepared and I was ready for whatever came after that.
On the flip side, though, like being a young entrepreneur must have been tough in some moments because you're also just growing up as an individual, right? You're going from being an adolescent into a teenager into a young adult. What were some of the challenges, whether they be personal challenges or business challenges that you had to navigate during these years that were very pivotal to who you are now?
Yeah. So, it was pretty time consuming. That's probably, I'll say the most. Very, very time consuming. And I guess I really didn't at the time grasp the impact that it would have on me as a person. In terms of what I prioritize, whether it be school or sports or work or friends or relationships or family time, that stuff was a constant struggle to juggle at all times. And I'm not saying I mastered time management, but I felt like I got these challenges early in life that some people don't get until, they've graduated from college and they're just starting, their first real job. That happened probably 15 years earlier for me. And so I got to learn and fail on something that, I don't want to say it was less important, but it had it just matured me very quickly. It took up a lot of my time, and it just gave me opportunities that a normal person doesn't really get. Like, I don't know, I got flown to Hawaii one time in 2008 to speak for a major tech company. Wow. Just a week in Hawaii summer, that changes how you value yourself, right?
And how you see the world too, right?
Right. Like, I love who I am. I love what I can do. I believe in what I'm saying. I believe in the impact my company can make. That confidence and those skills to, be able to speak intelligently about some topic and to vocalize how I feel. Those are all things I learned as a teenager growing up, and, acquiring mentors, right? Acquiring people who could see potential in you early in life and not just want to jump on your bandwagon when you're successful. Those people are just, I'll never let them go, right? They're shaping my future for me, right? They're by my side through everything. And, if I just don't know what my life would look like if I hadn't started Eden Body Works. I mean, I don't doubt that it would still be a great life, but, it's been 50% of my life has been dedicated to growing this enterprise and, building up a team of people with integrity that really care about the work that they do, and, empowering women and doing all that stuff. And I wanted that when I was younger. But now I feel like I have the maturity to really be strategic about it instead of just responding to things as life happens to me.
So I know, like you mentioned, when you were younger, you still had this desire to be involved in science and tech and engineering and building things. How were you able to also pursue that passion of yours, although you had a very big responsibility of running, full time? I'm calling it full time, actual business enterprise, right? Like, how were you also pursuing your other passions during this time?
Yeah. So even before I started Eden Body Works, I wanted to be in tech, right? I wanted to, and again, it wasn't, terminology is just like breaking my mind right now.
It's all right. Make up your own.
I wanted to be an inventor, right? Like, I don't want to say like when I was 8 years old, I wanted to be in tech, right? Because being in tech wasn't really a thing for me, right? It was, I want to be an inventor. I want to be a builder, right? Eventually I went to Take Your Child to Work Day with my mom at Lockheed Martin, and I learned I actually want to be an engineer, and just getting that vocabulary, getting that terminology, an engineer, allowed me to search the web for colleges and universities that, had great representation of female engineers, and finding a great school to really, live out that dream that I always had. And so, again, I love Eden Body Works. I love what it has done for my life. But, if I hadn't lost my hair, let's say, if I never got that bad relaxer, I would probably still be here as an engineer working at Microsoft or working at another global organization doing this kind of work, because I wanted that. But when something like Eden Body Works falls into your lap, right? When you get inspired to use your life experiences to change other people's, that's a hard thing to let go just because you weren't expecting it to happen. And so, I really have this balance of, I'm doing this for me on one side, the engineering side, and I'm doing this for others. Mm-hmm. And so when I was balancing my time between those two, it felt right. I felt like I'm doing for me, I'm doing for others. There's good coming from both sides. I feel balanced. When I got to Georgia Tech in 2009, I'd spent the last, 5 years running Eden Body Works after school, before school. And, with the toughness of the curriculum at Georgia Tech, I knew that I can't do this full time anymore. I can't even give 20, 30 hours a week to this because, my studies are going to fall behind, and, not getting this degree would be sacrificing too much of myself, for the company. And I was also having a hard time building a team because I wasn't super motivated to give control of the organization over to anyone else because it had been going so well just under my leadership. And so, that balance of I need to do something for me, but I also have to let something go, meant me being super focused on building a team that I could trust a team that would feel like a family to me to help manage the business day to day. And that's really how I've been able to, get my bachelor's, get my master's, and, be successful at Microsoft. It's because I always have that balance, and I'm able to let go and let more qualified people help me make my dreams come true.
So by the time you got to college, how big was the company? Like, how many orders per day were you guys shipping out? Like, maybe you can give us perspective as far as scale goes from when you first started to by the time you got to college.
Gosh, I can't even think of what the numbers were, but it was definitely beyond what I could produce in my basement, right?
Okay. So you had a fulfillment, you had a manufacturer fulfillment.
Yeah,
company.
Exactly. Okay. And the real challenge was about growth, right? It was about growth, and it was about media appearances, so it honestly, I don't know where the slogan comes from, but the whole "it takes money to make money" is a real thing, right? You might have, let's say, for example, you might have 3 major retailers that want to buy your product, or want to buy the thing that you've made, and essentially what happens is you give them the product they want, they sell it if they can, and they pay you based on what you've sold. Right. I mean, I think that's a typical retail relationship. Some people get paid up front, right? Some people just get paid a flat rate, and that's great. That's great. But I think typically, especially if you're a new brand, you give them the product, you hope that it sells, and you get whatever dividends come from the sales that you've made. Now, in order to produce that product that you're giving them for them to sell in their markets, you have to have some upfront capital. And, for me, Body Works has gone the bootstrap model our entire time, really just building off of, I make a sale and I use that money to invest in future product development and future sales. And so, that was something that we really had to decide. Are we going to continue to build a relationship with, A, B, and C retailers, or are we going to continue to expand? And if we continue to expand, the demand and the expectations would grow. And that's pressure that the team would have to assume, right? Different account managers, different pitch meetings, things like that. And so, that was a choice that we had to make, or, throughout the years. And the same thing with media appearances. It's, where's the right place to tell this story? What interviews are worth my time to take, because I have physics and calculus exams to take? When is it okay for me to miss lecture to go speak somewhere? Or, hey, I have to come back, at 6 a.m. from this, dinner because I have a test the next day, different things like that. So, you're just balancing those things, having a team to be there with me was super helpful. But during my time at Georgia Tech, those are probably the 2 biggest things.
Did you ever feel, or did you feel like you were able to get the full college experience? And I'm asking that as somebody who sometimes, I went to Princeton, and a lot of people are like, you should be proud that you went to such a prestigious school, which I am. But sometimes I felt like I didn't get to have that ideal college experience that, you think of when you watch movies or you read books or whatever. And I mean, maybe it's just because my personality, maybe I was never meant to have that crazy party lifestyle or whatever. But did you enjoy your college experience? I know you enjoyed the classes and what you were doing, but just socially and everything beyond academics. How was that like for you?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Go, girl, go. I'm happy.
Absolutely. 100%. That image of what college is like in movies is garbage and is not appealing to me in any way. And so I wouldn't wish that college experience on anyone. At Georgia Tech, I met so many motivated, smart, intelligent people who knew how they wanted to change the world, or were curious enough to, attempt to figure that out. And I was so encouraged and inspired by them. Mm-hmm. At that point, I was been working with my team for quite some time. And, they encouraged me too, to, if there's something that is too much work on me, or, something that I need to delegate, they were willing to take it on so that I could live college to the fullest. I was in so many clubs and organizations, and so much volunteering and sports, and taking extra credits and studying abroad. And honestly, it was some of the greatest years of my life to date. And in the end, we have essentially, like, let's say homecoming. It's homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
At homecoming, they pick, a Mr. or Miss Georgia Tech, and those people are chosen not just for how popular they are, but for the impact that they have on the community, for their academic achievement, for their leadership across campus. And on my first day of my first week at Georgia Tech, I was like, I'm going to be Miss Georgia Tech. I'm going to do it. It's a thing that I want. I want to impact this campus. This campus is, essentially my small little model of impacting the world. And so I'm going to do it. And in the end, when I actually was named Miss Georgia Tech, I was crying.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations. That's manifesting, right? You were manifested that.
Yeah.
You saw it and you took it.
It was amazing, right? And it wasn't just about getting good grades and just getting through it. It was really about meeting people, learning and growing. Like, I worked for probably 3 of my 4 years. I worked at, the IT group on campus, right? So I'm going around helping freshmen get on internet, fixing computers, making sure that all the emergency phones on campus actually call the police office, and aren't broken down in an emergency. I worked with the Residence Hall Association to make sure that everybody who was living on campus had everything they needed and they felt safe and they had fun. Volunteered to clean up campus, volunteered at homeless shelters, and did projects for, supporting women who have been victims of domestic violence. Like, it was amazing. Did robotics research. It was so thrilling to be at Georgia Tech. The opportunities were just limitless. And, really the only bounds was, do I have time to do my homework and go to this thing, like those were the big things I had to think about, because where things were with Eden Body Works, we had done tons and tons of product development over the summer before, and it was really about, what is our release strategy? What is our rollout plan? How are we responding to feedback? All that stuff was just planned out and designed. And that gave me the space I needed to really, like you were saying, just be a college student and just enjoy exploring my life in that context.
Did you feel like you were living in 2 worlds? Because I know, being an entrepreneur in the beauty industry has things that, you can carry across wherever you go, but also being very heavily involved in tech and interest in in engineering, there are also some differences as well. So, how did you navigate these 2 passions of yours as you went into Microsoft? And you first were working with Xbox, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So how did you kind of live in these 2 worlds, coexist in these 2 worlds and still excel in both as you entered the workforce?
Yeah. So for me, I wanted them both. Some people, I think we're just grown up to think that there's this one thing that we're meant to do. And I mean, probably there's, it's not only one, it's probably at least one. Right? Like, you can like science and like sports, right? You can want to do your makeup and still go hiking on the weekends, right? Like, there aren't any bounds to what we can be as people. And that's essentially the mentality I took when I was pursuing my careers, right? As a full-time person, I knew I wanted, to get a job in tech, to grow as a leader in engineering and product development. And I knew that my history and background as an entrepreneur was going to be valuable in that, right? Mm-hmm. I couldn't work at a place that wouldn't allow me to do both. I needed a place with flexibility, that understood ambition and understood kind of what I was hoping to get out of doing both. But I don't understand people who ask me, when are you going to choose between the 2 of them? It's like going to a mom and say, okay, they're 18 now, pick your favorite.
Yeah, it's kind of it's unrealistic. It's why can't I have both? Why can't I be good at both and pursue both? That kind of makes you more of a well-rounded person, where you're not always having to worry about not worry. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, as creative, as people who are interested in lifestyle, we're told that we have to make a choice, and this choice will define us for the rest of your life. And that can be scary, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, right? I mean, if I wanted an easier life, if I wanted to do more with Eden Body Works, obviously I would quit my job at Microsoft. If I wanted to excel at Microsoft, I don't know, maybe it would be useful if I wasn't running Eden Body Works. But again, it's not about an easy life or a life that makes sense to other people. It's about a life that I'm happy with, a life that fulfills me as a person, right? I'm not saying, hey, you have a full-time 40-hour job in tech, go start your own company. that's a decision you have to make for yourself, right? The motivation and the passion has to be there for you to take that kind of leaps. It's not easy, and I don't think either of them comes naturally to me, but it's really about wanting it and seeing the impact of my work, taking those risks and being afraid and being in a community of people who support me have been just fundamental to being able to even balance all of this. It's like you were saying, being on the outside. I feel like I live in this weird little bubble sometimes that people can't understand. And I do my best to communicate my intentions and my motivations with things, but, I can't expect people to understand, why I would live this kind of life, because it's my life. It's not meant for them to truly understand. If anything, I just hope that I encourage them to let go of any fears or limitations that they've imposed on themselves, or like you were saying, that they feel like other people have, potentially imposed on them, and that it encourages them instead of them trying to, I guess, scope me down to something that's more understandable for them.
You know what? When you said it's my life, I thought about, I know that you did an interview with Myleik Teele of Curlbox. I watched that. I love the imagery, and that was so beautiful. I'm like, I need to go to Seattle. And I just imagine Myleik saying, like, it's your life. Like, I could just picture her saying, I've never met her, but I could just picture her saying that. I know you talked to her before, but let's talk about Microsoft, as we wind down. Like, what do you think has been some of like the benefits, things that you've learned working at Microsoft that you think are just going to be valuable skills that you'll take throughout your career, throughout your life, like that you only could have learned by being in company of, like, people who are so invested in technology?
Oh yeah. Oh man. Like,
I know it's a loaded question. Give us a little bit, just a little taste.
It's fine. There are so many. I mean, it felt like being at a bigger, more powerful Georgia Tech, right? Mm-hmm. Like, these people are not only curious and passionate, but they actually have the superpowers, I'll call them, the superpowers to accomplish these massive visions, right? Like, the first thing that I ever made was used by 60 million people. Like that.
Wow. What was that?
This was like a feature on Xbox Live. Like, these things, like the scope of the world that you're changing, it becomes real to you, right? You're at this powerhouse that's full of these amazing scientists and engineers, designers, creators, writers, business people. Like, you have everything that you could ever imagine, let's say, as an entrepreneur, at your disposal. And you have leaders with vision and passion and just skills, where you can actually accomplish things. And it's hard sometimes because Microsoft is so big, but what we're able to do is beyond what I just think any tiny company can do. And so in terms of what I've learned, probably the biggest thing that I've learned is just the ability to communicate across disciplines. Understanding that everyone's not going to know your lingo or your jargon, or everyone's perspective might not be the same on a certain issue. And it's better for me to understand where they're coming from than to force them to understand, my perspective, right? Like, I'm going to personally grow more if I can understand the perspective of the business people and the designer and the developer than if I just force them to, do exactly what I'm telling them or do exactly what I want them to do. And so just that has really built me up in terms of a leader. In terms of product development, being customer focused, I would say, or fan focused, even, because you can't even guarantee that these people are going to become your customers. Being focused and driven by the behaviors that you expect of them, or, understanding their struggles in life and really being strategic about how you approach solving their issues, and just being open-minded about there is no one way. Right? There is no one way to do things, and every idea or opinion or thought is a valid one to be considered and vetted against, the criteria that you get from understanding who your customer is. So I've just learned so much. It has been just an amazing 4 years for me here. Mm-hmm. so many more mentors, so much exposure to things on such a large scale. And, I've learned a lot of things from Eden Body Works that has prepared me in terms of maturity and communication and business sense. And, that has prepared me for this career at Microsoft, and so many things that, being at Microsoft, I've been able to bring to Eden Body Works, like being more data driven, right? Being more active in the community in terms of seeking their input and their guidance, because we're not just doing it for the money, right? We're not just doing it because, oh, it's fun and we enjoy it. We're doing it because we understand the type of impact we can have on their lives, and what these products and what the events that we participate in can actually do for people. And we truly believe, in our mission. So, I would steal Microsoft's mission if I could, to empower everyone on the planet to achieve more, and sometimes, in the perspective of Eden Body Works, sometimes it starts with getting comfortable with how you look on the outside and your external appearance. And I'm okay with starting there.
So really quickly, because I just think it's important that you mentioned it, you talked about, really being focused on data. Really quickly, for someone who's in the creative lifestyle realm, right, who may not be so data tech driven, what's the core metric that you think every entrepreneur, every creative entrepreneur really needs to understand about their business?
Wow.
Because there's so many, right? But like one thing.
It's very industry specific, and it's very...
for beauty, then, for what speak from what for beauty.
Even in beauty, right? Because different people want different things at different levels of I'll say luxury. But I would say, wow. It's not a key measure per se, but it's like what I was saying before. What are the core values of your organization? And what is the mission of your organization? And how are the products that you produce fulfilling that mission and staying true to those values? I say that's the number one thing for a person who's just starting a business or even has a dream to start a business. I get really hesitant to, support a business or an entrepreneur that just says, okay, I have this product, or I have this thing I want to sell. When really, what helps you grow and actually have a future as a business is not just that one product. It's like I was saying, those values and that mission that really drives your strategy moving forward. If you haven't nailed that, and you haven't nailed, getting that into an elevator pitch that you can, spread your passion and fire to other people, then you're really not going to go anywhere, regardless of if your product is good or works or, people really enjoy it. If you can't tell the right story about, what is your purpose? How are you changing lives? Or, what are the values and expectations that we can have for your organization? Then, you're just not going to get very far. And then I would say when you actually have a product out there, I don't know, that key measure, that's tough. I think it's going to be product specific, but probably the reach to your target market, if I have to choose one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just understanding like who are you getting exposure to, and what do they think? What does that market think? Because who knows, you might look at your demographics and realize that, oh, you were targeting, let's say 25-year-old men, but you're really getting 45-year-old women buying your product.
So do you pivot? Do you?
It's up to you, right? But you need to know, right? You need to know who the people are that are buying your product, because if you're advertising in a certain way or marketing in a certain way where you're not hitting what you thought, then you obviously are not getting your core values and your mission right. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, maybe you recognize an entirely new segment that you need to take the time and attention to understand more thoroughly how you're going to impact them. So
I know this is like probably not a fair way to wrap things up, but, thinking about identity, right? Being a Black woman in the tech space, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave for people who, want to, other Black, I'll say, women of color, who are trying to build and carve out their space in the industry that may not always be so, I don't want to say welcoming, but, may not be always so easy to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say that some of the barriers are real and some of them are fake. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you want to be in tech, then you should pursue being in tech despite, what you may have seen or what you may have heard. it's not easy. No career that actually impacts and changes the world is going to be easy. And if I can be an example of what it's like to go against the odds, to fight really hard for something that you want, then that's the legacy I want to leave. I don't think my story is limited to just impacting minority women, but I have no problem being a role model or being an example or being a familiar face to, people who look like me. But it's just beyond that, right? In any field, right, there's going to be some dominating group. And it doesn't mean that you don't belong there. That feeling of not belonging is totally real. And, culture shifts need to happen all around our world to embrace people who are different. But I don't think there's any need to wait or to limit yourself and waiting for those things to happen. If you really care about change happening in the industries that you're in or that you want to be in, go make that change. I'm a firm believer in just going and making the change that you want to see or that you need to see. And the last thing I'll say about being a minority woman is I have probably had to fight against and overcome many things that some people didn't have to, and that made me stronger and better than people who, were able to kind of just, get by on what they know or who they know. And I appreciate that, right? I appreciate that extra grit and that extra muscle and that resilience that I gained from my whole journey. And if my life is hard, then whatever, I'm going to be the strongest 80-year-old supreme Black entrepreneur engineer that there is.
With fly hair. Right. Moisturized hair.
I'm not afraid of the challenges ahead because I know how to work hard. I know how to learn. I know how to rely on and trust other people. And I think that's really what it takes to be successful, regardless of what you look like.
I'm so bad. I realized we had a listener question, questions that people sent in, but you answered them. So I just want to acknowledge Fab and Mackenzie. I did incorporate you guys' questions into some of the things that I asked Jasmine. So sorry, guys, but let's go into our lightning round, Jasmine. This part of the interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first word that comes to mind, and we're going to stick with our whole dream driving metaphor, okay? So when you hear the words, think of like what it means to be a dream driver. First word is park.
Oh, shark.
Reverse.
Oh, I don't know, move forward.
Neutral.
Gender.
Drive.
Fast.
I'll see that was like the gear shift in a car. So if you got the metaphor there. And lastly, if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So tell me 3 things, Jasmine, that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
Yeah. So I definitely think you need a plan, right? You need to prepare. I think you need to be bold, essentially just fearless. If you've prepared, then you should have nothing to be afraid of because you should have already evaluated your enemies, your concerns, your weaknesses, your strengths. And probably the last key to success, I would really say don't go alone. So you need somebody in that passenger seat.
And what kind of person do you need in the passenger seat?
Someone with the same type of passion, ambition, and integrity as you, if not more than you. Not just somebody who wants to be along for the ride, right? Like you really do need a co-pilot. Or I say you don't need one, but it's super useful. Like the ride is so much more fun when you see stuff on the road and you can point it out to the person sitting next to you and you can laugh together and build that relationship as you're building that brand or building that business. So yeah.
If I, let's say, picked you up and I was driving in the back seat, who'd be in your passenger seat?
Ooh. I mean, right now, probably my mom.
Okay.
She has been probably my number one business partner. She is just so, I'm going to say like authentically creative, right? Like she is just a passionate thinker, about impacting the world. And she just has this way about her where she's always thinking about how can things be more and better and how can she get our family involved or get other people involved and really bring people up as we are moving forward. So yeah, probably right now in this phase of my life, probably my mom.
Oh, well, shout out to Jasmine's mom for being in the passenger seat with you. Where can our dream drivers find you if they want to connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, check out Eden Body Works products? Let us know.
Yeah. So, I mean, for Eden Body Works, we're Eden Body Works across all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that. You can find us at www.edenbodyworks.com. You can find me at JasmineLawrence.com or on Instagram and Twitter at Eden's Jasmine.
Right. Thank you so much, Jasmine. This has been such a pleasure talking to you. I feel like I've learned so much. I've been so inspired. We're like the same age. I'm like, yes, you've done all this stuff. I need to keep going too. I'm not comparing, but I am definitely motivated and inspired. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say once again that I really am inspired genuinely by what you're doing, and just that you're able to be like, you're not just fitting in one box. Like, you have different passions and you are wholeheartedly pursuing both of them. And that's just like, and you're successful at both of them. And that's why I think a lot of more of us need to know that we can do different things. We just have to know how much we're able, what's the realistic way that we can participate in our passions, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 96 with Jasmine. I hope that you enjoyed hearing her dream driving story as well as her keys to success. So what did you think of the episode? Let me know by tweeting Dreams and Drive or sending me a message on Instagram at Dreams and Drive as well. I love responding, I love retweeting, and I love engaging with you guys when you send me messages. So make sure to hit me up there and let me know what you're thinking. And if you love what Jasmine talked about in the episode, the best thing you could do would be to share this with a friend, somebody that you think also would benefit from hearing her talk about managing 2 careers at the same damn time and being a boss at both. There are lots of ways for you to share the episode, but one of my favorite ways is just to screenshot it, right? Like, screenshot a picture of whatever app you're listening to it on, and then post it on Instagram, post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, or you can just send people the direct link as well. Tell them to go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 96. If you want today's show notes, make sure to visit dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 96 as well. And last but not least, what I also want to say is, you don't want to miss our offer with Skillamate. If you need some help writing your resume, if you want to talk to a career coach, if you want someone to give your current resume a thorough assessment, make sure to check out their $125 package that they're offering to dream drivers. It's well worth your time. Just go to skillamate.com/dreamsanddrive. That's skillume.com/dreamsanddrive. You can also get the link in our show notes page and our episode description as well. One last thing is I want to give a shout out to our dream drivers who are listening to the show and who always engage each week. And this week, our shout out is going to Dreama. She's currently working as a realtor for Florida Homes Realty and Mortgage and is working in part-time management at a Swarovski outlet store. Thank you so much, Dreama, for listening. I appreciate you, girl. If you're not part of our Facebook group, make sure you are. Go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook or just search Dreams and Drive Mastermind Community on Facebook and you can request access there. It's always fun to engage with people as the community grows. More people are asking questions. More people are just being, thoughtful commenters as well. So I appreciate how much the Facebook group is growing. If you haven't already, make sure to go back and listen to episode 95 with Ashunta Sharif. There were gems on gems on gems on gems that were shared in that episode, so you have to check it out. Plus, Taraji P. Henson made a guest appearance. Yes, Taraji was on the podcast, you guys. Our next episode is going to be a solo round with just me, so get ready for that. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and I'll talk to you soon.